What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today we're going to be looking at an awesome budget offering from Kershaw. This is, of course, part 2 of the Walmart 2-pack that I started yesterday. This is the assisted opening Kershaw 1300WM, seen on the back of the blade there. This is a China-made folding knife budget offering from Kershaw. Let me see if I can get my camera to focus. This is an excellent folding knife, and I brought that up yesterday. I want to talk about why, and but I want to make sure that I'm clear here. Again, when I say that, I mean, for what it's designed to do and what it costs. So keep in mind, there's nothing on this knife that would be considered premium materials. Every material used on this knife, the handle scales, the frame, the blade, they're all entry-level materials. There's nothing special there. So we are purely judging this knife off of its design and how it'll function based on what it's working with, and for the cost. So if you're looking in this case for a nice outdoor utility folding knife, and you've got $20 or less to spend, then this is an amazing option. If you are looking for the most premium blade steel that you can get, and you're looking for an office carry knife that's smaller, this is definitely not for you. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and proceed here. As you saw there with the initial deployment, this is an assisted opening folding knife that's pretty big, and for size reference, I'm actually carrying the Ontario Rat 1 today. So let's go ahead and put this up here. The Rat 1, I believe, comes in at a total length of 8.6 inches. So if we go pivot to pivot here, you can see that it's very close to the overall size of the Rat, though I think we're being led astray here by the angle of the camera. Truthfully, I think this Kershaw 1300WM is somewhere between 8.25 and 8.4 inches, something like that. So keep that in mind. Pretty big folding knife. Let's talk about the scales here. These are plastic. They look like Peel Ply Textured G10, but they are plastic. The camera makes them look light blue, but they are gray. So you've got some Peel Ply texturing, and then you've got these horizontal 3D cut lines there that do actually offer some traction. Overall, I wouldn't call this the prettiest knife in the world, but as really good ergonomic designs go, that's generally the case. The more ergonomic they are, generally the uglier they are. But there are some exceptions. But anyways, so we've got plastic for the handle scales, and then you've got a steel liner, and probably just 420J2 or something like that, entry level. So nothing crazy there, but definitely strong enough to get the job done. And then you've got a pillar construction or open body construction with 2 standoffs, and then more of this material on the other side. You've got your Torx head pivot. You've got 2 body screws on this side, a lanyard hole, and then you've got 2 body screws on the other side, and you have a right hand tip down carry pocket clip. So that's unfortunate because that's the only position you can carry it in. So if you're left-handed, sorry, and if you like to carry your knives tip up like me, then sorry. But that's okay, not too big of a deal, because we're going to talk about the rest of the knife here. For the blade, the steel is likely 3CR13, so you're getting a stainless steel, and that's pretty much it. You can sharpen it, and it'll cut for a while, or for a little bit, and it's going to go dull pretty fast. You're not going to want to be doing any heavy prying tests with this, or chopping, or using it like a hammer. Basically things you wouldn't use a knife for anyway, so steer away from stuff like that. But let's talk about the design, the function of this knife, and why I think it's such an excellent buy. Perhaps the best buy for this category, again, meaning budget for outdoor work knife or utility knife in the folding knife category. So here's why I like this. Number one, let's talk about the handle ergonomics here. This thing just melts into your hand. Your fingers fall naturally into the position that you would expect to get a good purchase on the knife. It's a nice large handle, so if you have anywhere from medium to large size hands, you're going to be gripping this thing very comfortably. It does have jimping in all the places that you would want for a good purchase. So down here, these 3 fingers here meet this jimping, or at least this texturing here. And then you do have some jimping up here on this sort of hump in the back of the knife. So it really gives the impression of security. And I wouldn't have any reservations about bearing down on this really hard, whether you're in the hammer grip or you've got your thumb here. This is a very natural position. So I really, really like that. And I got to point this out. This knife really kind of, the look of it and the jimping back here and the jimping here, it kind of reminds me of a Hinder. You know, I mean, there's some obvious major differences between this knife and an XM18, but the overall size and where they've got the jimping and how they've got the liner and the scale set up and kind of the overall thickness of it, you know, it really kind of reminds me of a XM18 3.5 inch. So that's kind of cool because I'm biased towards that knife, and I enjoy it very much. So I like that. Now, you know, there's no thumb ramp here. The blade just kind of drops right in here, but where you put your thumb in this position is perfectly acceptable, and there's plenty of traction here. So again, plenty of security. You've got two means of deployment here. The flipper tab, which is shaped kind of like a bird's beak. It kind of slants down. There's no sharp jimping to catch your finger there. So I really appreciate that, you know, as somebody who kind of fidgets and is always deploying my knives. This is very, you know, comfortable over and over and over again. Not that you know, defines a knife's quality, because really it's just meant to be used. But you're not going to be slamming down on really sharp jimping here. And the flipper tab overall is a very comfortable design, so I appreciate that. The thumb stud opening on this is very natural. You know, yesterday I complained about that other knife not having a natural feeling when you go to engage the thumb stud and deploy the knife, because of how the primary choil was cut and the position of the thumb stud itself. It just really didn't want to work the way that, you know, that Kershaw had designed the knife to work. This is very natural. It deploys exactly as you would expect. When you move your thumb into position to engage that stud there, it deploys rapidly and easily, and it's very comfortable. There's no part of me that worries about whether or not the knife's going to fully deploy, because they've got this thumb stud in the correct position. They've got this cut the right way. So that's excellent. Love that. Let's talk about this Tanto blade shape. If you watch some of my other videos, you know that I'm not the biggest fan of the Tanto blade shape on budget knives, and it's not because I don't like the Tanto. It's because the knives that the Tanto's usually on have this sort of weapony implication about them. You know, the knife is designed to draw you in as somebody who's looking for a weapon and not necessarily a utility folding knife. Well, in this case, this is a Tanto that's designed the way that it should be in terms of a utility folding knife. It's designed with an air of utility about that. Here's what I mean by that. The Tanto blade shape, by the way, is a very strong blade design, because it usually has a flat, or the thickest part of the blade, that carries almost all the way out to the tip. So the blade maintains its thickness and strength for a long ways, especially in this case, because, you know, you can see here this main flat, this thickness carries way out here. Now, normally a Tanto blade shape, for those that are not familiar with it, or variants of the Tanto, has just a straight line here dividing these two edges. You know, you've got this main edge, and then you've got your second edge divided by this angle here, and you generally have a straight line between here and where it connects to this flat. But this one, as you can see, is kind of curved. And what that means is that the main cutting edge here, let's see if I can capture this, has actually been ground, hollow ground. And I think that's really neat. You know, you don't see that on a lot of budget knives. I mean, it's out there. I don't know if you can tell if my camera's going to focus, but it's ground in a way that makes the main cutting edge very thin if you were to sharpen it. So this main edge it can be sharpened very thin, and you can use that for your, you know, your slicing, box cutting tasks, things like that. More of your knife specific tasks. Your second edge up here is ground flat. So it's ground, the edge is actually ground thicker than this one here. And I like that if this is going to be an outdoor utility knife, because you're going to you're going to be in situations where you might need to use the knife for maybe some things that knives aren't traditionally used for, you know, scraping or maybe some light prying. What's nice is that the thickness, you can see, carries nearly all the way down to the tip. So it's actually got a pretty thick tip, And then you have a thicker ground secondary edge here that you can use for some light scraping or prying tasks, which is really, really nice. So you can kind of divide up your tasks between those two different edges and save the appropriate edge for whatever it is that you want to use it for. So I really, really appreciate that in terms of a utility knife. Again, this is not made with premium materials. So, would you have an advantage to a knife that was built just like this, that had more premium blade steel and more premium handle materials, liner materials, and was maybe a little bit thicker? Well, yeah, in that case, your money would be going to, even more utility. But if you only have $20 to spend, this is set up really, really well for that. And if you break it or you lose it, well, who cares? You only spent $20 on it, So this is one of those rare cases where a budget folding knife is not designed at all just to, appeal in terms of cool factor. This was actually well thought out, well designed. The blade was well designed, and they took budget materials and they actually ended up with a functioning shape and design, and I really appreciate that. Kershaw does that really, really well, and this knife emphasizes that their ability in that. So I really like this thing. This is awesome. If you're looking for a knife to throw in your truck or use on the job site, or whatever, use outside and just kind of throw around, and one that you can depend on, this is an excellent, excellent option. And unfortunately, they don't sell the 2-pack that this comes in anymore, though I did find this exact model on an obscure website that sells it for about $20. I don't know if I brought that up earlier in the video. So you can still definitely find this for $20, and I say it's absolutely worth it, even if you don't get the other knife with it. This one by itself, I would say, is worth $20 versus that gas station crap that's out there for the same price range. Another thing to point out here, the reason, again, that I'm really happy with the way, despite me missing that first time, happy with the way the thumb stud deploys is, like all these other budget Kershaws, if your torsion bar snaps, you still have a detent ball, which, let's see if we can capture, see it on there, the inside of the liner. You still have a detent ball, and you still have a detent hole in the blade. So if the torsion bar snaps, and the detent is no longer strong enough that you can rely solely on the flipper tab to deploy the knife without whipping it out, which doesn't make a lot of sense, again, because you're creating unnecessary force against that stop pin, and then as that wears in, your liner will continue to wear all the way over to the other side until you've got lock rock. But if that happens and you can't use this, your thumb stud's still going to work as a reliable means of deployment because of its position, that natural position for deployment that it's in, and you still got a perfectly functional knife that you can continue to use as long as you don't do anything stupid with it. So awesome design. This is bang for your buck in terms of longevity. Yeah, you're going to be sharpening it all the time if you want to keep a razor edge on it, and a screw might back out on you, but they're not going to be super hard to find. These are basic little Torx heads, I couldn't imagine it would be super difficult to replace some of the things on this knife. These are small Teflon washers, as is to be expected with a knife like this. So here's another cool thing. This knife has no blade play, which I can't really properly demonstrate on camera, so you're going to have to trust me on it. It locks up at about 50%, which I think I covered, and it's centered. So that's cool. If you want to Loctite it and keep everything in that position, it's plenty smooth right here. It's plenty easy to disengage and engage. It slides in and out of your pocket easily with one hand. You can, use it and then retract it and put it away, put it back in your pocket with one hand, which is that test that I always go over. So that's perfect. There's only one thing to complain about on this knife, and it's the position of the pocket clip. Other than that, they nailed it. This is an excellent example of a cheap utility knife. You can't get much better than this. Again, you're not going to really, you don't want to carry this in an office setting. But if you just, you need a knife for yard work or just whatever outside, you need a good, dependable cutting tool that isn't going to break your heart if you lose it or break it. Hey, excellent option. Kershaw 1300 WM. Again, on that note, keep your eyes out for those Kershaw Walmart 2-packs that come around every Christmas, because if you're on a budget and you're looking for a good folding knife, or multiple, or you're looking for gifts for other people, these are awesome knives. Kershaw really knocks it out of the park every year for almost every one of these that I've seen. They've got good all business designs that are not, it's not mall ninja crap. It's not designed to just be a cool looking knife. A knife is a tool. And that's what Kershaw's doing here. They're designing functional tools with budget materials that actually work because they're designed correctly. So I really, really like this knife. You are getting exactly what you pay for here, and at a pretty good deal in my opinion. So if you can find this knife and you like how it looks, then I would definitely suggest it. That's pretty much it for today, guys. I appreciate you watching, and I hope you were entertained by the video. If you were, please leave a like, and check out my other content, because I do have lots of other knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I either do or don't like. And if you enjoy those, then definitely subscribe to my channel and turn those notifications on, because I've got a lot more content coming. Thanks again, and have a great day.